Welcome everybody who's out there listening to this live broadcast. I'm Jody Costa. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Barcoding Incorporated, and really thrilled to kind of kick off 2021 with some of my favorite people and one of my favorite topics. So thank you for the team for joining me today. These huddles are really a way for us to kind of gather together and discuss some of the most pressing topics that are on our customers' minds, and certainly projects and solutions that we're working actively with our customers. And so I'm very excited for today's kind of inaugural huddle up. So at this point, you know who I am. Barcoding is a supply chain automation and innovation company. We help all sorts and all manners of organizations become more efficient, accurate, and connected. And one of the ways that we do that, of course, is focusing on data capture and mobility. And one of the core ways that we do that, right, is through our IoT and RFID teams. So with that, I'm going to allow our team to introduce themselves quickly, and we're going to start the conversation. So Pat, you want to kick it off with an introduction, please?
Sure. My name is Pat Riggles, Director of RFID and IoT Solutions here at Barcoding. I've been in this role for a little bit now, and before that, I spent 3 years as a systems engineer under Tom Boyle. And before that, I was a customer of Barcoding. So I spent 10 years doing RFID solutions at my prior company, Monsanto, with the help of Barcoding. And at that time, it was right to jump to the other side of the curtain. So that's a little bit of my background. I'm here in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'll let Tim go next.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Hey, my name is Tim Wagner. I am an RFID IoT engineer here at Barcoding. Some of my day-to-day responsibilities are, assisting the sales team for pre and post-sales type opportunities. And, once a customer gives us the green light for a project, I'm involved with the design and implementation of the project. We do what's called a detailed systems requirements design on our projects. We work and coordinate with the contractors and the installers and in installing our hardware and our equipment. We work with the company's IT department. We spec out we help them spec out the hardware architecture with their computers. We give them our software requirements. It includes our databases and our middleware software. Prior to joining Barcoding, I actually was I was actually a co-inventor of a couple of RFID patents that centered around healthcare in the hospital operating rooms. And prior to that, I was actually an electrical engineer for, like companies like Rockwell Automation, which, former Allen Bradley up there near Pat in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So yeah, I've been doing RFID for probably since the beginning of 2006. So yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Where are you based, Tim?
I am in Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Chattanooga. Awesome.
And it is 60 degrees here today, and sunny. So
don't rub it in.
Yeah.
All right, JP, how about you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, Jean-Pierre Joissin, or JP, if it's easier. I am based out of Michigan on a rare sunny day. Today it is still cold though, but we'll take the sun. I am part of Barcoding's IoT Enterprise Solutions Group. I started, I've been in RFID for about 15 years. Was part of a startup company by the name of WareNet, which later was acquired by Zebra Technologies. So went through the acquisition process of WareNet with Zebra. Implemented in those days RTLS solutions, real-time locating systems using active technology, the WareNet technology at the time. Done anything from designing and troubleshooting wireless infrastructures, designing and implementing backhaul infrastructures. When I joined Zebra Technologies as part of the acquisition, I supported, my role there was to support high visibility information technology initiatives that Zebra was getting into getting involved with the use of the WareNet technology. And oftentimes back then I would be part of new technology deployments where I would help document the new technology, the use cases that the technology fit for, and essentially bringing that back to headquarters engineering team and software team as well. From there, I moved to another startup company, left Zebra, went to Mojix Incorporated. At Mojix, my responsibility was to product demonstration pilots, working closely with software and hardware engineers to kind of shape up the product offerings. From there, became part of Barcoding. When I was at Mojix, we had a partnership with Mojix and Barcoding, where I met a former director of RFID, Tom Boyles. And then from there, the relationship kind of developed between myself and Tom, and convinced me to join Barcoding to, again, still the same aspect of evaluating new technologies, product offerings, documenting those things. And oftentimes I find myself essentially supporting our sales team on a pre-sales engineering role here at Barcoding and working with partners.
I mean, I hope that, all of our guests today can appreciate the type of experience that you three bring to the table. I mean, you all have seen it, you've done it, and you really have quite a wide range of experience in all sorts of manners of IoT technology. So perfect group today to have our discussion, and I think perfect timing. I really wanted to tackle this topic first in 2021, because I think coming out of last year, dare I say pandemic year, like everybody, but coming out of a very disruptive time, and this need for visibility that we all knew was coming to logistics processes, supply chain processes, but the adoption rates, kind of soared, and this, I think the demand for these types of, and the appetite for these types of technologies that enable you to capture more and more data is really, really key. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pick this as our first topic. And, I did a little bit of research, right? And so, this concept of the digital supply chain, I want to start there, because one of the things that you'll see if you do some research on your own is that one of the major drivers of a digital supply chain, often quoted as the faster adoption of IoT. And I think, with some of our pre-work conversations, we started to talk about, well, does everyone know what IoT is? So we wanted to start back at that basic level and say, let's just throw it out there. What in your opinion is IoT? And maybe even throw in kind of the relationship to how you've seen the development of these technologies. And I'm going to throw this one to Pat to start, and then let you all jump in and piggyback on it. And Pat, you are on mute, so I'll save you a couple there.
All right, thanks, Jody. Yeah, IoT. How do you define that, right? It's a tricky one. First of all, let's start with what it's not. It's not a technology or a platform, right? It's what it really is a name, right? It's just a thought. It's a name that's given to something that describes the overall goal of various technologies, platforms, and protocols within IoT that make up IoT. So the goal of these technologies is to connect assets, right? And that asset could be, or that device could be represented itself in a mobile computer. It could be representing another type of asset, which could be a generator or a person. I think what IoT really does is it gives that greater visibility, or that next level of visibility, to a greater number of asset types, and that connectivity provides updates, whether it's a location, a status change, or any number of sensor type metrics, so humidity or anything along those lines. So it really takes, in short, IoT really encompasses a lot, but to me, it boils down to connecting devices that, in particular, devices that previously didn't have that visibility.
Cool. I'm sure that Tim wants to jump in here too.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you down history lane. So, so there was a there was a British technologist. His name was Kevin Ashton, and he's the one that coined the term the Internet of Things. And he described it as a system where the internet is connected to the physical world, using ubiquitous sensors. So if you think about it, sensors everywhere. And so that was all the way in 98, 99 timeframe, and so, back then, Kevin, along with Dr. Sanjay Sharma at MIT, they were two of the co-founders of the Auto ID lab, the RFID, the Auto ID lab at MIT. And back, in the 98 timeframe, Sanjay, they started researching RFID, and it was, neat. And out of that came the electronic product code, so, the EPC that we know today. MIT licensed that to what was, the standard company, as we all know, GS1, and it became EPC Global. So that's sort of where the Internet of Things, came from. And to me, it's taken to me that the term means taking the world's things, and producing data from them, whether they're RFID tags, sensors, BLE, cameras, and then maybe sending and storing that data in the cloud. The data can be used, sent to artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, and decisions can be made on that data. And then the results of those decisions can be sent to things like humans and robots and, or other automated systems, and, something that might change something in the world. To me, it's sort of it's not really a platform. It's not really a technology. It's more of a, like they used back in the day, a design language. So it's more of an all-encompassing design language, and the way to, get you to think about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and keep it going, JP. Do you want to give us, and we talked about actually your office, your home office, but some examples that people can kind of go, oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. To Pat's point and Tim's point, I mean, IoT, you hear that term so much nowadays, and it's an interesting one, right? So again, echoing Tim and Pat, it's an ecosystem of interrelated, interconnected objects, right? So those objects are those things, and Internet of Things. That's capable of collecting, transferring data over a network, usually a wireless network, doesn't have to be, and preferably without human intervention, right? The idea is collecting all that data, at times making it become actionable items, actionable decisions, and through the use of artificial intelligence and so forth. So with that, IoT itself, IoT objects and things, is theoretically any objects equipped with some type of sensor, right? That has the ability to gather and transfer that data. For myself, like right there over my shoulder is a occupancy sensor, a temperature sensor that I use myself to do a bunch of nerdy stuff at my house, right? So anything from safety, right? If I'm out of my house, I'm traveling somewhere, with the use of IFTTT, if this, then that, I'm able to apply some logics in my house that says, okay, if there is no occupancy and the temperature fluctuates, either decreases, I'm here in Michigan, the temperature can get pretty cold if the house is not occupied. Well, if temperature starts dipping 60 degrees, 55 degrees Fahrenheit, I need to have somebody intervene as soon as possible so my pipes don't freeze. Right. I have water sensors in my house, in my basement. In Michigan, we have basements. So if my sump pump fails and I start having water in my basement, I can minimize the amount of damage by, again, using IFTTT to send a text message and email, provided, of course, my internet is there, I still have power and so forth, right?
Right.
So to me, to summarize all that, with Internet of Things nowadays, and the term covers such a broad spectrum that we can really start, when we have that conversation, we really should start boiling it down to smart homes versus healthcare versus manufacturing versus other industries. So it's beneficial to so much more industries and organizations nowadays. It's just a matter of identifying that, and in fact, there's so many organizations that we come across that don't even realize the spectrum in which they're able to utilize the different IoT sensors that are in their manufacturing floors through a PLC system, or so many different things, so many opportunities that are available.
Yeah, and I think that's where I want to kind of pivot, because I hopefully everyone out there, that they, like me, it's like, oh, you can't just implement IoT, right? Because it's not a thing. So hopefully that little lesson there and Tim's history lesson really helped us already. But I want to pivot to kind of what we're hearing from our current customers, right? So again, a lot of demand coming through these supply chains, logistics processes. And I'm sure, like a lot of people, the way that we all get started, right? We go online, we start searching, we start looking things up, we start downloading white papers. But what would you, and I'll start with you, Pat, what would you really tell, say I'm someone sitting in the IT or the ops world, and I know that I want to better leverage the sensors, or I want to start leveraging data in new and different ways in my organization. How would I get started? I know I'm going to do my own internet research, but what other things should I be thinking about if if I know I need better data visibility in certain processes in my business?
Yeah, I guess the first place I would suggest to start is to really look closely at where your ROI is coming from, right? What is the real need? So a lot of times we'll get inquiries and things where it's more of a theoretical, what if we could do this, but they haven't really looked at what am I really getting out of it, and some way to quantify, what or measure against, the expense and the effort to implement such a thing. So starting out with that, I think the ROI is ultimate, to have at least a handle of, what's at least to be able to convey to us what your goal is. So defining that, and then the other part is, and this is where you might need help from people on the screen here today, is understanding the feasibility of what you want to do, right? So if you can track that item throughout your process, if it's a work process or whatever type of application it is, what are the choke points? We can help you define that type of thing. But really understanding what technology is going to be a good fit would be the next discussion.
JP, Tim, you guys want to jump in there too?
Sure, absolutely. Excellent point again by Pat. A lot of times organizations, they come to us, they go to the industry and they know they have a problem, but there's always that common, we don't want to air out our dirty laundry. We don't want to admit that our shipment accuracy is maybe 45%, right? So they don't want to really tell us that, but again, those things are really important, whether they're comfortable enough to expose that to us. But a lot of times with our experience, we can kind of gather some of that information, right? And again, that's where the experience comes in. Very subtly, if I go into a manufacturing environment, an automotive manufacturing environment, and you tell me, we have these, in the normal process of vehicle manufacturing, we may have some paint defects, right? So we're going to have a containment lot that's going to keep these vehicles so that they can get repainted, or a bumper has a defect in it. So before we release it for shipment, we want to look for those. We want to gather those vehicles to bring them back into the manufacturing environment to process them back. And a lot of times what happens is those automotive manufacturers, you got to remember, it's not us taking our keys and in the middle of a parking lot pressing a panic button, right? All the keys are inside the vehicle, and they're looking for maybe 1,000 vehicles that are all red or white, right? But having the understanding of subtly saying, okay, well, when you're looking for these vehicles, how many people are looking for these vehicles? Oh, we have anywhere from 5 to 8 employees looking for these vehicles. Okay, you start doing the math. Okay, how often does that happen? Once a week, right? So these are all the things to Pat's point that are really important to understand. And all of us here, and even a lot of, I see some of the participants that are logged in here, have enough experience to realize, the technology's come a long way. I remember starting in RFID where some of you have often heard me refer to it as, you'd walk into a place and it was like black magic, right? Oh my gosh, this RFID thing, this this early phase of IoT doesn't really work. I don't believe it. There's no way you're gonna be able to. So many times we'd walk into conference rooms. There's no way this is gonna work, right? So I think the technology's evolved to a point now that it's no longer a matter of will the technology work. It's a matter of are the proper processes in place to take advantage of the technology? Is the return on investment there? Can we modify those processes slightly in order to benefit from the technology? So again, the technology is not perfect. It has its limitations, RF limitations, the natural RF limitations. But once you have a better understanding of those things, we can design around it and maybe even make some design process suggestions that it's not necessarily flipping your process, your organization upside down and starting over, but just making these slight adjustments that can now take your shipment verification from 55% to 95%, right? So those are some of the things that organizations need to come forward and kind of recognizing there's a problem, right? And then allowing us to apply that expertise and make the proper recommendations.
Admitting there's a problem, first step, right?
First, exactly.
Yeah.
Step one, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's probably been your experience as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, if we, if we can help customers, speed up their, let's say, their supply chains, the velocity of their supply chains, if we can help them digitize their supply chains, that is, I heard one company say, it saves $60 million in their bottom line, by digitizing it and having a real-time inventory into their supply chain. So it's really important. And, I'll go back to Simon Sinek, they need to ask the question, why, why am I doing this? Sometimes you may see somebody that's watched a YouTube video on a technology like RFID and say, hey, I want to implement that. But, when we talk to them and ask them questions, maybe that's not the greatest fit, but maybe it is. Let's say in a work in process application, I had a customer the other day that was like, we make this widget and we put it in a box, but we have this hardware that goes with this widget and like bolts and nuts and screws that goes in this box. Hey, can we put an RFID tag on this bag of hardware and be able to read into the box without opening the box and make sure it's in there, And so, enhancing that visibility and giving them real-time, data is very important. Yeah. So
I'm guessing though, trying to simplify this even further for some of our listeners. So some of the things that I heard, right? Really understanding what's happening with whatever assets being tracked, right? So what type of data do you really, really need that's critical to kind of moving that supply chain velocity faster and faster, right? And the other thing I heard was really examining the use of your labor within certain processes to see if technology can kind of improve that employee experience so that those people can either be reallocated to other areas or that, put into other processes that need more manual intensive, help. So those are the kind of, you guys, what I want to kind of dig into is, really still giving the customers a little bit more insights into saying, okay, if I'm looking at where I want to improve either in my asset tracking, in an asset tracking sense or an inventory sense, what are the key questions maybe I could ask myself? I'll throw that out to the group. I don't really have a particular person in mind for this one. Pat,
Oh,
you look like you're ready.
Sure, sure. Well, I tried to think about what I could add that wasn't already said in that. As far as a particular process, each application is really its own. There's physics involved that that to us as we're looking at a project that really factor into what technology is right. But if I think my best answer there might be just if they're able to convey what they're looking to do, right, and why they're looking to do it, then we can in very short order start directing them in the right path, not definitively, but saying here's where our focus points are. We need to gather quite a bit of information to ensure that is the right fit. So we don't go there too quickly, but I think just having the right background so that we're looking the right direction, right?
Right, gathering the right, information so that when you can trust, a partner like Barcoding that, that conversation, you can get to the feasibility answer quickly, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
I'll add to that is, so I deal a lot with the pre-sales process, right? And the main thing I usually tell a potential customers is, look, um, we're not successful if you're not successful. We value our relationships. We're not narrow vision at looking at just this use case. We're already looking 2, 5, 10 steps ahead of how can this technology, with the proper design, might be available to other aspects of your organization, right? So it's really, again, reiterating the fact that it's understanding what is that problem, right? Plain and simple financial answers. If your problem is a $20,000 problem, and we're designing a $300,000 system, it doesn't make sense, right? Can we do a phased approach, right? Where a smaller layer of trying to solve this problem is an easy or easier part of the organization, a problem that's part of the organization that we can help solve. From there, we take a bigger bite at phase 2 and 3 and 4. So it's really starting to think about the current problems that they have, potential things that we could do in the future to solve even bigger problems, and so forth. But really, it's in the case of passive RFID, right?
Right.
A technology that is, tag agnostic, meaning if I have a generator that I'm trying to track as part of my manufacturing process, there's a certain passive RFID tag that I would put on that larger asset. If it's wire harness that I'm tracking that goes as part of that generator, identifying what part of that manufacturing process that I don't have enough visibility for, that I'm constantly losing parts, whether they're misplaced or in a 2 million square foot facility. John Smith, just when his shift or her shift is there, just picks it up, stores it away. They know where it is, but nobody else does, right? I know in the hospital industry, hospitals are spending a lot of their money on the lack of visibility of where wheelchairs, oxygen tanks, and so forth are located. It's not so much that somebody's picking it up and going home with it, but different shifts are hoarding some of those assets, right? So if I am a hospital manager and so forth, and I'm constantly spending money every year on buying more wheelchair, but it's really the second shift overnight that's hoarding the wheelchairs, putting it somewhere else. Can we present can we provide some visibility to some of that, right? And the return on investment on that. So those are the things you have to kind of think about, what your current processes are, and how we can improve those.
I really like that. Kind of in my simple brain, it's like I was like thinking, follow the money, right? So actually putting a price tag on where those issues are, where you're losing money, or where you're losing time, right? So just like simplifying it there, following it into those areas. Where am I losing the most time kind of with my people? Where am I losing the most money? And digging in, like, where do I really need better visibility? And that sort of leads you to that starting point, right? So
Yeah. Time is money. Money takes time.
exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
And
based
that,
on, oh, Pat, go ahead, Pat.
no, I was going to say, just to kind of go on from that, your question kind of led me into, in the discussion, kind of led me into a little bit more of where I see some customers sometimes make mistakes, and that's with the scope that they start with. Sometimes the scope is very narrow, and that I need to read, these items on this conveyor. Kind of to Tim's example earlier, where they need to know what's in that package. Well, that's a very short read range. But they're neglecting to look at down the line when they need to follow that through a dock door or a hallway choke point, or need a longer read range. So a lot of times the scope is having the right scope, and with that is really taking into consideration upstream and downstream applications from what you're currently looking at, what your first pain point is. So I do see people sometimes kind of getting themselves kind of set the wrong way there. If you take a wrong step there, then you have to retag your inventory to accomplish this next goal, and that's not something anyone wants to do, right? So I think you can definitely think too small, but you can also think too big, right? If you try and accomplish every goal or every pain point from the inbound to the outbound of the dock in an instance, then the opportunity or the objective here could get too large in scope and get too expensive and not something that to either JP or Tim said earlier, a phased in approach to where you're looking at your biggest problem point, you're addressing that, mindful of what's upstream and downstream of that, and you're integrating a system that grows with you, that allows you to apply the similar or right technologies in the key areas down the road.
Oh, I just love that, because I've been thinking a lot about this I've been coining it like the new era of data capture, right? Our industry is kind of in a renaissance period, and thinking holistically, so not just trying to solve a discrete problem that you don't realize where that data is needed elsewhere downstream. I think that's such a great point about scope. I love that. And I want to, kind of keep mining your collective experiences here and expertise, and maybe give people a sense of where you've seen, success happen over and over again, certain specific applications where you've seen success with RFID type of technologies or other IoT sensing technologies in place for, if you think about the processes where you've seen repeatable success, I should say. Tim, maybe you want to jump in here?
Yeah, for sure. So, one good success that we've had in RFID is, we've had some customers that want to track their MRO stuff. So if you think of a big monster industrial facility that has large equipment and they're making product and things break, and they have a store, they have parts, and they have to issue those parts. We've had real good success by going in and putting RFID tags on all their parts, and then letting somebody walk into the store, so to speak, grab an item, walk right out of our read zone, and take it. Nothing else they don't have to do. We may have a monitor on the wall showing them what they removed, but it migrates all the way through maybe SAP or some ERP system, and gives them instant data, so that's, we've had really good success with those kinds of projects. Pat mentioned shipping verification. That's another one that we've had really good success doing, actually having monitors at the dock door showing what went into a tractor trailer, backed up to a dock, shipment verification. Those are great solutions. So those are some of the things that we've had real good success with, but, and it all comes down to, teaching the customer, it's about the physics, it's about selecting the right tag, the right antennas, the right readers, and designing the system in such a way that, it's good for everybody.
So you're saying it's probably not good to just go out and buy a couple pieces of hardware yourself?
No, I've taken many of those phone calls where people do that. And it never works out very well.
Right? As a tinkerer yourself, but not in the business world.
Yeah, not in the business world. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be calling us.
Yes. So I heard the MRO applications, shipment verifications. Pat, JP, any other ones you want to throw out there for just to kind of give people food for thought?
I'll take Tim's example just a little bit further, and where we talk about verification, going out, and talk a little bit about retail and improving inventory levels at retail. I mean, in this day and age, I think that can be appreciated, right? The value of having retail and maximizing your workforce efficiency. So I think I think I read something not too long ago that talked about a kind of a common estimation of retail inventory accuracy being at roughly 65%. Well, if RFID or another technology could take that to 95%, yeah, I would think that'd be a very compelling case, right? So that's a place where we have seen and continue to see future growth.
That's great. And you know that we all love our online shopping now. So
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say between Pat's example and Tim's examples, I think the common denominator there in terms of um, an easier success is choke points, right? If your current processes involve choke points that in the case of retail you're taking items from the sales floor to your inventory in the back or vice versa. Well, it's a given doorway that you always going in and out of. So that's a level of visibility right there that can help. And the other thing to add to retail is I've been on calls even with some retail stores that they themselves don't even realize that some of the merchandise that they're carrying in their stores already are RFID enabled, right?
right.
Not to pick on any specific names, but I mean, Presales is already tagging Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, Hanes, Fruit of the Loom. All those most of their items are already tagged, and if not, a large subset of their items are already tagged. So if you're a reseller of those items, well, then again, how often I would venture to guess 90% of the attendees of this webinar have gone to a store where they like a specific product, whether it's a tennis shoe or shoes or pants or whatever, and they like it. That store doesn't have it. It shows one inventory on hand. Nobody can find it. Then the cycle that it goes through, which is that store, yep, I want to order it. Please ship it to my house. And then the back end headache that goes through from this store, passing it on to the next closest store, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. A week later, comes back to the original store, right? All that is a lack of visibility that can, within reason, of course, can be gained, sooner than some realize.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. It also makes me think of the returns headache that a lot of people are dealing with too. So really good examples in retail. One other idea that came to my mind that someone might want to comment on too is temperature sensing. So obviously we're hearing a lot about vaccines and cold chain, and how do we make sure that items in the pharmaceutical chains or the food chains stay cold or to a temperature that they're supposed to stay. I assume that that's another good place for IoT, considering your home office has these types of technologies.
No, absolutely. I mean, so again, that actually ties it all back into this whole IoT bubble, right? I've done a use case in my prior life where it was for a food processing facility. Where they started tracking using IoT, and I'll tie this in a second, from the field. So as soon as they would pick lettuce or carrots or anything else, they put it in these bins. The bin itself has a label that's printed on it that has some human readable information, but that label is an RFID enabled label. Temperature sensor gets put in every bin for carrots, lettuce, and so forth. And as it goes into a truck that's going to travel to take that to the processing facility that's going to clean it, core it, slice it into your grocery store ready to eat salad, right? The temperature sensor is tracking it. If it fluctuates below or higher than It could introduce, freezer burn versus no, it spoils. So that's all IoT. As soon as those bins enter the facility, the dock doors are enabled with some level of RFID that detects every one of those bins that comes into that manufacturing, that processing facility, to the whole process until it gets cut and bagged, and the bag itself has, in this case, maybe a barcode that ties all of it together. You have any type of recall, all that is in a database that knows exactly that this batch that was manufactured on this month has been shipped to Michigan and Novi, Michigan, for example. Right. And then next thing you know, it makes it to your 6 o'clock news, and they know exactly which batch it affects. All that is IoT as a whole. So
I love how you mentioned them all. You got the barcode in there, you got the RFID, IoT. Pat, I know that this is a little bit your world too, but I think temperature sensing is an easy one for people to think about when they think about an asset and then thinking about the conditions, right? That a sensor enables them to have more access to different types of data. It's like, got to expand your mind about what you can track too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of instances, especially when we start integrating BLE, just another tool in the IoT toolbox, right? Where it's doing more active sensing. There is to go back just a quick second, RFID does have some temperature sensitive tags that is able to report temps, but maybe a little bit more larger or more expanded in the BLE world, where temp, humidity, all these various environmental conditions can be reported on a particular asset, and again bring that next level of visibility that wasn't there before, right? That you don't get with a barcode scan. Yeah, hope that answers your question.
Well, and we know that you three know and can appreciate that the future is bright in this industry, in this field, and we're obviously excited to kind of help people continue in their quest to digitize the supply chain. Tim, I
noticed that. I'll tell you a funny story. I noticed a company that has an IoT solution that has sensors in their mattress, so you can have an app and control the temperature in your mattress, and hey, that's an IoT application, So I mean, so with our technologies, I mean, your imagination is limitless, So yeah.
Well, if you have some ideas of what you're really excited about for the future, just personally, Tim, what are you thinking about?
Oh man, the future. I mean, to be a technologist, it's the future's bright. I just think, in the future, imagine being able to walk into a warehouse and everything tell you, where it is, right? I mean, I remember back in the mid 2000s, IBM had a TV commercial. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but IBM had a TV commercial with a tractor trailer driving down the road, and it said the boxes could talk to you. To me, it was pretty much hype, but today, it's not hype. We can do that with IoT technologies. We're doing it today with barcoding, with Ken Curry, we're doing some geotab telematics stuff where we're tracking things over the road. We can put RFID, passive RFID readers inside the back of the trailers and track things in there and tell things like a digital matters tag, that, where things are. And so it's using BLE. So there's so many different technologies, I mean, I think in the future, augmented reality, virtual reality, showing you where things are. I mean, you may even have in your contact lens or glasses, you may have some of this technology built into it, so I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's the future's bright for our technology. I swear I can remember long ago when I had this crazy thing called a pager hooked to my belt, and that thing would go off and I would have to go drive around to some gas station and try to find a quarter to call somebody. And today, our smartphones are really not phones. They're actually an IoT device. They have sensors in them, facial recognition, GPS for location, motion. It sends data to the cloud. It makes, it's whether we like it or not, there's artificial intelligence behind that stuff with all these big companies, and they're making, telling us where to go. And so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool time to be alive, right? So, yeah.
It sure is. Pat, you're smiling. You have some ideas on the future. I want to pick up where Tim left off.
It just makes me smile sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah, I think I think you're talking about RFID, and you were talking about some new products, and the the Impinj R700 is going to be I think a game changer in some respects for the RFID world and in its capabilities. And then one thing that's I think interesting about that particular product is just the way it communicates. Right now data streams are more it's got more of an IoT interface to it than it did before, right? So it ducks in MQTT and Kafka to a edge server that relates it. Though it's bringing a lot of those systems together, and where edge computing is going to be, there's with all these devices, there's more pressure on edge computing. Maybe it's the right way of saying it in development and consistency and standards. So I think that's one thing that I'm really excited to see. There's a lot of advancements, and I could go on with a number of examples. One came to mind where a company is working with a battery-free BLE tag. It sounds crazy to even I would never even thought of considering it, but just by harvesting all the radio waves in the area, which tells you a little bit something about today's environment that's there, that it's able to power itself and send a BLE beacon, right? So much the way a passive RFID tag, it's a passive BLE beacon. So it's it's not there yet, but it's one of many things to watch for.
That's fantastic. What about you, JP? What gets you excited to go to work in the morning? What are you looking forward to?
No, I mean, as mentioned by Tim and Pat, technology now it's so accessible. It's so, relatively speaking, affordable, that it's a matter of again the problem that you have, and how, if the technology is affordable enough for that problem. But in terms of technology and future, I mean, anything from blockchain to cloud computing, and having access to so many different things through the cloud, whether it's RFID, whether it's IoT, and that IoT square and bubble that we talked about. But specifically, I think one thing that it's exposed over the last, call it almost year, specifically with COVID, is the whole supply chain, right? Having the proper technology to support that supply chain, the visibility, making sure the right product is getting at the right place at the right time. To me, that's key. Looking at implementing thermal imaging cameras for an entry point at a facility, maybe even at the barcoding office, right? where we're taking temperatures of people coming in, not so much to provide precise accuracy for that specific use case, but just high level. Is somebody walking in with 102-degree fever versus not at a hospital, right? Those are critical things. Right now we're exposing people at different emergency rooms and hospitals to kind of filter through the patients that are coming in. You still within close proximity. All that can be done with technology nowadays. So, to me, the future in terms of technology, it's just fascinating. And again, I remember the time when we started doing IoT stuff, where an RFID tag was $120 or $150, right? And now it's not the case anymore. So the future is very promising. There's a lot of opportunities that are happening right now.
I hope that everyone, and I just saw some comments coming in. I really appreciated this conversation today, and I'll kind of tie this back, because I think that as kind of, to use our supply chain geek term, as geeky as we got today, and as much as you all love technology, which is obviously really apparent to everyone, your passion and dedication for your craft, to me, and I think to all of us at Barcoding, we do always come back to the people, right? The impact of technology on people. And, even when we're talking about data, it is enabling people, humans, to make better decisions, right? So I think one of the great things that I enjoy about working with this team here is that we do focus on process and people, not just the technology. We love the technology, but I think that's something that's really vital, especially in these kind of emerging areas or the expanded use of RFID and IoT. So just kind of my final thought there too. Well, let me just check real quick. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, which must have meant that we had just a really good conversation.
Answered them all.
We answered them all.
I think I'll end with, I had talked about doing some like rapid fire. I won't do rapid fire, but I will give you the chance to kind of wrap up or summarize your final thought to the audience, and maybe I'll give you like, if you can do it in one word, that's awesome. But if you need 3, that's okay too. So do your best. What's that final word that you want to leave people with that you can really take away and sum up the conversation? It's my tough question of the day.
The future is now. Yes.
Okay, I like that, Tim. Future.
Yeah. It's, it's now. I mean, we have the technologies available to us, It's pretty neat. So
that's good. That was 4 words, so you're right there.
Sorry.
Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Wow, to break it down to one word, it's not easy for me. I guess I maybe I talk too much, but yeah, I think promise. I think there's a lot of promise to what's out there, to solving real life needs, and real problems, and I think there's a lot of solutions out there, and I'm really excited about where we're going as a group ourselves, in terms of what our goals are and what we're able to provide. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Looking at you.
So quite literally, life-changing innovation. Right?
Oh, nice.
I think that's again tying
That's
it
a good
back.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, life-changing innovation. The technology's there. We're there, and some of how we're gonna tie that technology and apply that technology is literally going to change lives.
I couldn't think of a better way to wrap this up. Thank you so much. We did have one comment from our fellow Dan Blank. Let technology work for you, but Dan, that's over the 1 word limit. So out you go. Yes, life-changing innovation. Certainly a fun time to be part of this world. Thank you all so much, Tim, JP, Pat. Just a wonderful conversation today. I really look forward to kind of hearing more from you guys. And of course, those in our audience and those who watch this recording later, we're here to help. We would love to tackle some of those challenges that you're having. We'd love to talk through some of those problems and help you follow the money, follow the time, and kind of improve that data visibility. So certainly reach out to us on barcoding.com, any of our social media channels. We are here. And then of course, you can always look any of us up on LinkedIn, and we're happy to help. So with that, thank you all. Great first huddle, and I'll talk to you all later.
Thanks, Jody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hi, did you enjoy the huddle? I sure hope so. We were really excited to have you as part of our conversation and would love to continue it. If you have a question or a challenge that you're facing and barcoding can help you out, please reach out. You can contact us on barcoding.com anytime or any of our social media channels. Again, we are here to help and would love to chat with you. Final ideas. Did you like the huddle so much you wanted to join? Do you want to come on air with me? Do you know someone who would be a great fit or a topic that you'd like to see covered? If so, reach out to me via email or LinkedIn, and I am happy to check in with you and talk through what we might be able to accomplish together. I would love to hear your ideas. We're always looking for new topics. So if you have an idea for Huddle or you'd like to be on a Huddle, contact me and we will make it happen. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.